Olympic Committee continues his positive support and strength of character, together with Chef de Mission Lovey Santana and COVID officer Risa Grant. All has been harnessed for team success. Whether it is at team events, the relays, or individually, through Kishon Walcott, Richard Thompson, Jareem Richards, Michelle Yee, Marshall Cedinho, Kellyanne Batiste, Tyra Gittins, Dylan Carter, Nicholas Paul, Tennille Campbell, Gabriella Wood, and Delay Wright, or Aaron Prince. Join your sporting headquarters I-95.5 FM with Andre Aero Batiste, Tony Lee, and others for all the excitement and joy every time one of our athletes participate at the Tokyo Olympics. I-95.5 FM, the most influential name in sports.
It's confirmed Herschel Walcott of Trinidad and Tobago is the men's javelin champion 2012 at the London Olympics. Herschel Walcott is the men's javelin champion.
Light it up like lightning. Yeah. This is our timing.
Coverage is brought to you by the Sports and Culture Fund, Office of the Prime Minister, in conjunction with the Ministry of Sports and Community Development.
A woman's worth. A woman's worth.
Tune in every Monday at 1:30 p.m. for A Woman's Word. A Woman's Word, hosted by Minister Wendy H. Lewis. Topics will include the rights of men and women, gender-based violence, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, personal development, and much more. A Woman's Word, hosted by Minister Wendy H. Lewis, every Monday at 1:30 p.m. right here on I-95.5 FM.
A woman's worth.
This program is sponsored by the Trinidad and Tobago Corporate Training Academy, Little Africa, a voice with Bishop Dexter James.
Welcome to the world of the Trinidad Express Young Chefs, where the happiest meals are made at home. Whether you have never cooked in the kitchen or you're ready for your own cooking show, we share delicious and delightful recipes for you to try at home with your family. Now you can be a Trinidad Express Young Chef too. Simply submit your personalized recipe book using the recipes in the Trinidad Express newspapers, along with pictures of the meal, to group marketing at ccngroup.com. Lots of prizes to be won. Join the Trinidad Express Young Chefs today. See press for more details.
Hi, this is Nikki Crosby with a message for you. People always ask me, why you get vaccine? Well, many reasons. Because I like saving my life, my husband's life, your life. Because I love people. Because I want to work with children again. Because I want to affect. So whatever your reason, let we all do our part and vaccinate TNT.
So, you took the step to get the COVID-19 vaccine. But remember, it does not end there. If you truly want to protect yourself and your loved ones, then you must continue to follow the health guidelines. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance from others. The health guidelines and the COVID-19 vaccine work together to save lives and livelihoods. Let's get back to doing the things we love with the people we love. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Hello world. Hello world. This is www.i955fm.com, Trinidad.
This Sunday on episode 30 of Ion Dependency from 6:15 p.m.
Human trafficking is a serious crime against humanity. 17-year-old Maria found out the hard way that friends does carry her, but they do bring you back.
We spoke and she told me that things were going well with her here, and she offered me to come and she would help me and support me, and I decided that I would come.
This Sunday, to mark World A Day Against the Trafficking in Persons, Garth and Natasha welcome Alana Wheeler, Director of the Counter Trafficking Unit, who will unveil the documentary Maria, the story of a young Venezuelan woman smuggled to Trinidad for the purpose of trafficking. You don't want to miss this episode of Eye on Dependency, this Sunday from 6:15 p.m. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. On Dependency, we don't just share stories, we change lives.
This is Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Sundays at 6:15 p.m. on the most influential name in radio, I-95.5 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, presenting the Ministry of Labor's puppet show on child labor.
Hi Priya, what's up? What you did this weekend?
Oh, hi, Sheldon. I'm good. I went down by my cousin Sunday again in Faizabad. It was real good.
Faizabad?
Yeah.
Where's that?
That's way down south.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You know, past the creek and stuff?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what did you do?
I went to the beach, but it wasn't fun at all. You wouldn't believe what I saw.
Turtle.
Coming soon to TV6, the Eye on Dependency TV series, Eye on Health, featuring the survivors of major non-communicable diseases like cancer, addiction, diabetes, mental ill health, and more. Plus, medical professionals from the Ministry of Health provide the facts about these all too common diseases in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't miss Eye on Health, starting August 1st and airing every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on TV6.
Hola, my name is Elena. Well, it's actually not my real name. You don't really care, do you? All you care about is once you pay your money to my boss that I look pretty, smell nice, smile for you, and let you have good time, enjoying yourself and doing to me whatever you want to do for the money you pay. What you don't see or know is that I don't get any part of the money you paid. My boss takes all of it. I am forced to work, taking as many clients as my boss tells me to. I am beaten, made to take drugs, and I cannot leave this kind of work on my own. I am a victim of human trafficking. Please, por favor, help me.
This is reality radio at its best. Eye on Dependency on I-95.5 FM.
This year's theme for the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons highlights the importance of listening to and learning from survivors of human trafficking. Survivors as key actors in the fight against human trafficking. They play a crucial role in establishing effective measures to prevent this crime, identify and rescue victims, and support them on their road to rehabilitation.
Many victims of human trafficking have experienced ignorance or misunderstanding in their attempts to get help. They have had traumatic post-rescue experiences during identification, interviews, and legal proceedings. Some have faced re-victimization and punishment for crimes they were forced to commit by their traffickers. Others have been subjected to the stigmatization or received inadequate support. Learning from victims' experiences and turning their suggestions into concrete actions will lead to more victim-centered and effective approach in combating human trafficking. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Dependency. This evening, it's an evening not for entertainment, but for education. Good evening, Natasha.
Good evening, Garth. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. And I have to say a special welcome to the trainees and staff of the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, who are tuned in this evening.
And everybody else, all our loyal listeners on I-95.5 or viewers to Facebook and YouTube channel Dependency, we welcome you all. This evening is a very important evening as we have the pleasure to start the week of activities put on by the Counter Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security, a week of activities dealing with human trafficking. As you know, World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, excuse me, and we are very happy and, honored to kick off this week of activities. And you keep close to your social media so you will understand what we're talking about. The Counter Trafficking Unit spearheads these activities. One of them being this today, Maria, that documentary, that long-awaited documentary that the Counter Trafficking Unit commissioned and asked us to produce, and we will speak to that as well later on. We get giving you time to fall in and make sure that you don't blink, because once we start the documentary, you will not hear from us until the end. And then we will speak with Ms. Wheeler, and then we have some trainees to speak with of the Civilian Conservation Corps. Also, we pay special mention to the Police AV Unit. You will see some work from them as well in this piece. And when we speak with Ms. Wheeler, she will, of course, help you identify the purpose, once again, of human trafficking. So, without further ado,
the story of Maria. This is a true story, so we want you to listen carefully to what she's saying and how she outlines the act, the means, and the purpose of human trafficking in her story. It's very harrowing, and it may be triggering at times. So those of you who are listening, who may know someone who may have experienced anything that befell Maria, please be aware of that. And we are, again, very pleased, as Garth mentioned, to share Maria's story with you in the hope that we all can learn something more about the crime of human trafficking.
Yes, and to you, young folks especially, who listen to Friends, you know that what people say, friends just carry you, but they don't bring you back. Here's the story of Maria. Shortman, over to you. Hello, welcome to this Dependency special interview. You will hear from a young lady who came here. You will hear of her journey, how she got here, and what happened to her when she landed here. She took a chance, and we are about to have an interview with her. Her name is Maria. Here's what happened to Maria.
My name is Maria. I'm 18 years old. I am from the central part of Venezuela. And today I come to tell you about my experience in Trinidad and Tobago.
Maria, tell us, what was it like growing up in Venezuela?
I grew up in Venezuela and I had a beautiful experience. My parents were always with me. In the 17 years that I've been in Venezuela with them, my family is very humble. They are workers, and I had a beautiful childhood, always surrounded by my family, by love, and my 3 sisters.
Now, Maria, you went to school in Venezuela. Tell us about that. Tell us about your education And what was your journey like with that in Venezuela?
Yes, I went to school. I finished high school, was about to go to university in March of this year, 2020.
Tell us about your family, Maria. Did you come from a poor family, rich family, middle class family? Tell us about that.
Yes, my both parents work, both parents are engineers, and my mom at the moment is studying again primary education.
So you came from a well-off family. You all were happy growing up in Venezuela. You didn't have a care in the world, right?
Yes, you can say that. My family has always supported me in anything I wanted to do while I was there, and any obstacle that we would find, we would always try to get over it.
So, Maria, is it safe to say then that where you grew up, the struggles of the everyday Venezuelan national, or even the downturn in the economy, the sanctions, that didn't affect your family at all?
Yes, obviously, all cities were going through these situations, but even though, above all, we were not in dire necessity, so we didn't have to go through that.
So, what made you decide to come to Trinidad then? You risked your life, literally. Why did you decide to come to Trinidad and Tobago?
Because I wanted to get to know new horizons, experiences. I wanted to know more, something more than just my own country.
Now, did you discuss coming to Trinidad with your family? Did you tell anyone at all?
No, I did not mention it to anyone.
Why didn't you?
I knew that if I shared this with a close friend, most probably they would tell my parents. And I knew that my parents will not permit me to leave home in that way.
Did you have a boyfriend at the time in Venezuela?
Yes. Yes, I had.
Did you discuss it with him at all?
I did not tell him about deciding to come here. But on several occasions, I did mention that I wanted to leave the country. But I did not tell him that I was coming here.
So, who encouraged you to come to Trinidad? And where did you meet this person?
Through a friend, I met this girl at a disco. This friend was supposed to be my best friend. And at a disco, we went out that night. We shared information. We spoke about what each one of us were doing at the time. And a few days after, this friend contacted me via Facebook.
So, this friend started off as being a stranger, but then she sent you a friend request on Facebook, and that you all started communicating from there.
Yes. And I accepted her Facebook request because we had met that night. We had shared information, and I thought she would become another friend like the other friends I have on Facebook.
So, who asked the question about coming to Trinidad? Did you ask her, or did she invite you to come to Trinidad?
No. We were chatting on Facebook, but then for about a month, I didn't hear about her. I didn't hear of her. So I wrote her and asked her about what she was doing. And after conversing, then she told me that she was in Trinidad and Tobago and that things here were going well for her, and that I could come to Trinidad and Tobago and she would help me.
So, this friend, was she Venezuelan or Trinidadian?
Venezuelan.
So, when you got into contact with her again, what was the conversation like, and who made the decision now for you to come to Trinidad?
When I contacted her again, we spoke and she told me that things were going well with her here, that she was living alone here, and days after she offered me if I wanted to come, and that she would help me and support me. And I then decided that I would come.
Did she ask about your family, or did you tell her that your family would not find favor with you coming to Trinidad?
I did not immediately tell her yes that I would go. I told her that I would think about it. I'll give her an answer later, because I was afraid, I was nervous, and I told her that I did not think that my family would accept it. And she told me not to tell my family about it because then they would not let me go.
So didn't you become suspicious with that answer?
Yes, I had a little doubt, but I never imagined what would come in the future.
So when did you finally decide to let her know that you're ready to come to Trinidad?
About 2 weeks later.
What kind of arrangement was made to come to Trinidad?
She told me to pack a small suitcase, not to bring too many clothes, that she would have a taxi pick me up, and this taxi would take me to Tucupita, where I will spend one night. But I ended up spending 5 nights before the boat came.
So tell us now, how did you prepare to leave home by packing and not making your family suspicious?
The night before, which was Friday, I went out with my friends, and I then prepared a bag with my clothes, and I went to the party, and the next morning the car passed and picked me up.
So you had planned not to go back home once you went to that party. It was to head for Trinidad.
Yes.
So did it concern you that your family would be worried that something probably bad has happened to you in Venezuela?
When I left, 2 days after that, my family began looking for me. They were concerned. I only was able to see their messages via Facebook 4 days after. I felt bad. I really felt bad. I felt that I had betrayed their trust, and they were worried. They were trying to contact all my friends, and no one can give an answer as to my whereabouts.
Now, what about your boyfriend? Was he worried as well?
Yes, he had left me thousands of messages. I told him as I was at a friend's house.
So nobody in Venezuela knew that you were on your way to Trinidad?
No one knew that I had come to Trinidad until the moment when I was at a supermarket with persons who I did not know, and I did not want to be there. I tried to leave, but they warned me that if I did, something bad would happen to me. One of the girls secretly lent me a phone, and this is when I called my friend and explained everything.
Now, there was this party. Before we go on, what was the arrangement after the party? Tell us about that.
After the party, the day after, the taxi came to pick me up at 10 a.m. The driver asked if I had an ID card because the Guardia Nacional would ask for ID on the way. The trip was 2.5 hours. The guards did stop us. They did search the car, and they did search the baggage. Then we arrived at Tucupita at night. I remained at a house where I had to wait, and then the next day I was taken by somebody else who came to pick me up, and I was taken to a supermarket.
So I guess the supermarket is all part of the setup. Is that right?
The supermarket has a room, a waiting room, where from there they take us to the boat. Once I was in that supermarket, in that room, I suspected something. And I began feeling afraid. There was one girl with me, and I began asking questions. And she then asked me questions and asked me if my friend told me the truth about what I was going to do. I told her my friend told me that I can come and work at a restaurant. And this girl answered that if my friend had not said the truth, then I had come for something else.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
You busy?
Not for you, what could I assist?
Okay, we have a job for you.
Job? What kind of job is that?
Morning, boss. Well, a small work for you, 5,000. What you do? Pick up some girls, drop them a room by the boss. So we making a quick 5,000.
Girls, boss. What is this about?
Listen to me now. It's a small work. You reach in Toko, pick up some girls, drop them a Rima. 5,000.
That sounding like human trafficking. Are you trying to set me up about? Partner, you know the penalty for human trafficking? Look, I gone now. Excuse me, please.
Do you know that human trafficking is considered a serious crime in Trinidad and Tobago and is punishable by law under the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210, or the TIPS Act? The penalties for recruiting, receiving, transporting, or housing a victim of human trafficking are a minimum of 15 years for trafficking adults and a fine of $500,000, a minimum of 20 years for trafficking children and a fine of $1 million, a fine of $350,000 and imprisonment for 12 years for transporting a person within or across TT borders for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution, a fine of $400,000 and imprisonment for 15 years for persons who receive a financial or other benefits from tips, a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 20 years for any person who receives a financial or other benefits from trafficking children, an additional 15 years imprisonment for any trafficker who uses or threatens to use a dangerous weapon on a victim, or where the victim suffers serious bodily harm, or the victim contracts a life-threatening illness or is sexually assaulted, or if the trafficker abuses his power as someone entrusted with the care or supervision of a child victim. Imprisonment for 25 years for any member of the Defense or Protective Services or any official or public officer having the powers of arrest who commits an offense. Court can order forfeiture of convicted traffickers' property. A company can be fined $5 million for engaging in tips.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
So the plan was to stay one night, but you ended up staying 5 nights at the supermarket. Why did that happen?
Because they told me that the Coast Guard was on alert and we could not do the trip.
So which Coast Guard? Venezuelan Coast Guard or Trinidad and Tobago's Coast Guard?
Trinidad Coast Guard.
So for the nights that you stayed in the room, were you allowed to come out, or you all had just to stay there in that room till you were ready to leave?
No, we were not allowed to go out. We had a restroom there. They gave us food, but we were not allowed to go out.
Any means of communication, radio, television, telephone?
No, there was no means of communication.
Now, is this supermarket located near to a port of entry to Venezuela?
Yes.
How did you feel about this? You just had closed for one night, but you had to stay 5 nights. You couldn't come out, you couldn't communicate with anyone. You all were just locked in this room. How did you feel about that?
I felt very, very bad. I felt as though I was drowning. I felt remorse. I was so sorry. I wanted to leave. I thought of my family, that they would be concerned. But most of all, I felt fear. Because when I commented that I wanted to leave, if there was any possibility that I could leave they informed me that once I tried to get out of that room, harm would come to me.
So, there and then, you realized that this was not the picture that your friend painted for you, correct?
Yes, I realized then that it was not what she had said, because they told me that if I tried leaving, harm would come to me. In fact, they told me they would kill me because the person who would have paid for me and paid the taxi was actually not her, as she had previously said.
So, during your stay there, did anyone try to harm you, physically molest you, or anything of the sort?
No, thank God no one tried to touch me or harm me.
Now, when the boat arrived and it was time for you to leave, who actually came for you?
Another taxi came to pick me up at the house, and they took us to a bus where other persons also would board to get on to go.
Now, these other persons, were they part of the cargo that come to Trinidad as well?
Yes.
Now, do you remember how many people you would have met there?
I did not speak with no one. I always spoke to the girl who was with me, who came in the taxi with me when I left the city where I lived. And we were always together.
Now, did you see anyone you recognized on that bus?
No.
Now, do you remember what time did the bus depart and how long was the journey to get to the vessel?
We left at 5 a.m. in the bus, and it took about 35 minutes to arrive at where the boat was.
So when you all got to the boat now, what were the instructions then?
No instructions were given. They took the baggage. They told us to sit where we could find space.
On the boat?
Yes.
Now, do you remember how many of you boarded that boat?
I cannot clearly remember. It may have been 15 or more persons.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was very afraid.
Now, did you at any point before you boarded that boat decided, look, you asked to go back home? Did you want to go back home?
I could not do it. The persons who had paid for my fare, they were present.
So when you saw that boat, did you realize that the dream that your friend sold you was not what you were about to experience?
When I saw the boat, I was in total shock. Now, it seems as though I was living a nightmare. Because now, it was not my decision whether I go or I stay. I just knew now that I had to leave to Trinidad. It was either yes or yes. My friend told me, the person was supposed to be my friend, told me that the trip would be for 45 minutes. It did not happen that way. This trip was more than 5 hours. And we came up onto a problem in the boat, and we were there in the middle of the sea and could only then continue after 1 hour. And this is when I knew that it wasn't going to be as I thought.
Cappy, talk to you now, boy. Got a small work for you to do. You make a quick 10 G's. What you going to do for me? 10 G's? What's that you want to do there, boy? What you doing? Taking your boat, going up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That's something like human trafficking, man. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They're essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
So the men who paid for you to come to Trinidad, they were there supervising everyone getting on the boat.
Yes.
Were they carrying any weapons? Were they threatening to anyone?
No,
I did not notice. At that moment, all I was doing was asking God to protect my family and to help me.
So the journey started. It should have been just 45 minutes, but it turned to 5 hours. How did that happen?
At the moment the boat was supposed to take off, there was no fuel, so we had to wait for fuel. Then we crossed a river and went to another river. There we stopped to eat and to stretch our legs. It became late. It got late. Then the boat had to stop in the middle of the sea and we spent an hour there because the captain of the boat, was drinking. And we had to wait on another man to come, who was the one who eventually brought us to Trinidad.
So you think it's because of the captain's drinking, he went in a wrong direction, that made the journey longer?
It could have been.
So Maria, you're out in the ocean, that boat rocking. Weren't you scared? Wasn't everybody scared to be out in the middle of that ocean there with that boat just rocking from side to side waiting?
Yes, we were all afraid. The sea was rough. The boat moved a lot. We even had to make another stop in the middle of a very small island because we thought the Coast Guard were approaching, but eventually it was just another boat also coming to Trinidad.
So the other boat coming to Trinidad had Venezuelans on it as well?
Yes, there were several adults, but the rest were children.
Were the other passengers on the boat, as you said, were they coming for the same reason as you?
What I picked up was that some of them had family here, some of them were coming to work, most of them were men.
So when the boat got to Trinidad and Tobago waters, though, what were the instructions?
Before the boat arrived at the shore, we were told that even before the boat arrived at the shore, we had to get out of the boat very quickly. We had to throw our baggage out very quickly and quickly pick it up. We had to run, but always bending down, bending our heads, and go towards some trees. They told us that we should not let anyone see us. They told us that we were not allowed to walk alone, that we should wait until several persons who were Trinidadians would come to show us where to walk or to show us the way.
Now, what time did the boat arrive, and do you remember where you all were dropped off?
We arrived approximately 3 a.m. in the morning. I do not know where I arrived. I only know that it was a beach And then they took us to like a forest where we had to go up a mountain and then go down.
Now tell us about coming off of the boat or disembarking. Was it difficult? Did you all have to swim to shore, or was it close enough so that you can touch the shore and run into the bushes?
No, I just got out very quickly out of the boat. I threw my bag out, picked it up, and as quickly as possible, I ran.
Now, how old were you when you touched down on Trinidad and Tobago soil?
I was 17 years old.
So you're here. Now it's time to see what life has in store for you. You went through the forest. What happened on the other side of that?
Well, when we arrived there and we went through the forest, from there we were taken to a place that was completely alone except for several Trinidadian men. Then a van came to pick us up. They took us to a house where I saw the owner of the boat. They said that he was the owner of the house. Everybody began waiting on who was to come and pick them up. The boy that was there asked me where I was going. I told him I did not know, that I had to call my friend. He lent me the phone. I wrote her, but she never answered. By that time, it was 5 in the morning. She arrived like around 10. She sent me another telephone number and I called her. A taxi came to pick me up and the taxi took me directly to a bar. This is when I entered in desperation and began feeling very nervous. I did not know what I was doing there. I thought that they were taking me to her house and that I would be able to stay there.
Morning. Listen now. Has noticed something about them new people on the Bobby Road. Where's that? Girl, the man is passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman. I really noticed some woman living there, you know. And they can't even say as much as good morning. Well, listen now. I wonder if this human trafficking, you think is that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
So they took you to a bar. What happened when you saw her?
I never saw my friend. She never went. They took me to a bar where there were Chinese men. There was a mature lady who they said was in charge of the bar. They immediately took us upstairs to the rooms. And all I was asking is what I was doing there and where was my friend. And this is when they told me that my friend also worked at that bar.
Now, what was expected of you when they took you upstairs? Did you get a change of clothes, food to eat? What happened then?
Yes. Well, I had my clothes, but they were wet. So they gave me a chance to wash it. They lent me something to put on and they gave me food. Then I received instructions from the mature lady in charge of the bar, who told me that I was lucky because that day there was no work, but I would have to prepare myself for the next day, which would be Tuesday.
The mature lady, was she Trinidadian, Chinese, Venezuelan?
She was a Venezuelan.
So what work did you get to do the following day?
I had to give my service to any man that would choose me.
So was it a bar, a restaurant, or what, a nightclub? What was it?
It was a bar.
So what were you asked to do? Were you supposed to dress a certain way and just walk around the bar or serve drinks? What was expected of you really?
Yes, I had to dress a certain way. I had to walk down the stairs. I had to accept if the men wanted to drink with me because this generated money to the bar.
So what was your frame of mind then? Did you decide, look, you're going to go through with it, or you just wanted to go home at that point?
I was afraid. I was so afraid. I was very afraid. At one moment, I thought of escaping, but they told me that the man in charge of the bar was a very dangerous man who knew persons, and that if I did escape, the other day, most probably, I would be dead. And this is when I just cried and cried and contacted my mother and told her everything that had happened.
So did anyone who came into the bar, did they get a chance to sit with you or speak with you or try to solicit you in any way?
No, they did not have a chance to, because the bar opened at 6:30 p.m. We came downstairs at 7 p.m. The men who were there, they knew, they had police people that they knew policemen. And the men that were there, they thought that these men that were there were their friends of the bar owners. But actually, they were policemen and no one knew. So only after the police took out their arms and said that they were police is when everything stopped.
The first time you had a chance to speak with your mother, what was that conversation like?
When I first contacted my mom, I did it before the police arrived at the bar. I called her. I was very afraid. And I told her that I had come here because my friend had told me there was an opportunity to work. And she said something completely different to what was happening. I told her that I had been taken to this bar without my consent. And my mom just began to cry and cry. She asked me to give her names. She asked me if there were persons in Venezuela that was involved in this. I told her yes. She told me that they would do whatever was possible to get me out. She also told me that I should try to escape, and I told her I could not because I would be dead, but that I would try to solve this.
Now, was it hard for you after speaking with your mom to go back to work?
Yes, it was very difficult.
So was it a police raid that stopped all activities for the night and, people were arrested?
Yes, all the girls were arrested. The workers of the bar were also arrested. But the persons visiting the bar were not arrested.
Really? The persons visiting the bar were not arrested, they were allowed to just leave?
Yes, because when the police arrived, they sent us upstairs, and I heard one of the workers saying that the police had them on the floor and then they let them go.
And what happened after that? Were you arrested?
What happened after that was the police interviewed us. They asked us for the names of the persons that were in charge of the bar. The mature lady who was in charge of the bar told me not to say my age, but I had already said everything. I said the truth. I said I had arrived the day before. I said that I had not started working there as yet. I said that I was 17 years old. And I pointed to the woman in the corner who was the lady in charge of the bar. She said that she had no idea that she had minors working in the bar. She thought they were of legal age. All this brought on a consequence, a stress, and I fainted. When I revived, I then cried with the people around me, and then I was taken to the police station.
No, I guess I know you were at least happy to be in the arms of law enforcement, the Counter Trafficking Unit, than for where you were before, right?
Yes, I believe it was a miracle from God. He sent me help. I believe he sent help for all of us that were there, because I was not the only one that was forced to be there. The majority of them were there and they did not want to be there.
You were arrested, you were taken to the station. What happened after that?
Bueno, pasamos una noche, sacaron a las menores a otra
That
habitación
night,
y las
the
mayores
minors
la
were
dejaron
separated from the
en
adults.
donde estaban.
We were interviewed, and the next day, the Venezuelan embassy visited us. We were again interviewed. We were taken to do a medical checkup, and then we were given food, and then we were taken to do other medicals, and then taken to home.
The sex trafficking thing is a serious thing, you know, boy.
Sex trafficking?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it's only human trafficking it have.
But what do you mean?
No serious thing, boy. Where you get that from? I know about human trafficking, you know about sex trafficking.
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and children who are victims of trafficking? Many victims who are children do not look like under 18 years old. Child victims often move escorted around alone or in small groups. They also live in shared and even packed rooms and have very little clothing and belongings. Child victims are often seen with adults who are not their parents, their relatives, or their caregivers. Migrant children are often unaccompanied and separated from their parents. Child victims are often engaged in work that is not suitable for children. They are often deprived of their freedom to go to school, to play, and to enjoy being a child. Perpetrators have unexplained sources of income and possessions. They are businessmen and businesswomen running legitimate and illegitimate businesses. Perpetrators may appear to be the victim's friend, boyfriend, close relative, or employer.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
So, Maria, know that you are safe in the arms of the right people. What would you like to say to your friends back in Venezuela?
Quisiera decirles que no se puede confiar en nadie, que no todo es como te lo pintan.
What I want to tell everyone is that you should not trust any and everybody. You cannot trust everyone that tells you that you can come to this place and you will be able to work and everything would be okay. No, there is a network of traffickers that will try to make you leave from 17 and even younger than 17. They would want you to make this trip. But believe me, even though the situation in Venezuela is difficult, even though you may not have all the resources, And even though your parents may not be able to give you all that you wish, there is a reality. And I say this generally. The most important thing is always health, your family, the people that love you, your meals. It doesn't matter how little it is. It doesn't matter how humble it is. But you should not leave Venezuela looking for other horizons and looking for other ways, the way that I did.
Pero por favor, se los pido de todo corazón, por todo lo que yo pasé, que no es nada fácil.
Please,
No es
please,
fácil
please,
que tú
I
confíes
beg
en
you
una persona
from my heart.
y te diga
This
que
is
sí,
not
vente,
easy. You
esto es
cannot
bonito,
confide in people that you do not know. They will tell you one thing, but it really is another. And you can then fall the way that I did. I must give thanks to God that I was able to get help. And if ever something like this should happen to you, that you were brought here fooled, thinking it was something else, there are agencies, there are people who can help you. And they have helped me as though they were my family, even though they didn't have to. And they will help you too. We are trying to save you. And one more thing that I would like to mention to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to clear this up, that not every woman that leaves Venezuela to come to Trinidad comes to prostitute herself. Some come to look for a work that dignifies because they have children and they have family. They are looking for a better future that Venezuela at this time cannot give them. I asked all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, please, from the bottom of my heart, whenever you see a Venezuelan woman, do not look at her in a bad manner. Not all of us think the same way. Not all of us have the same motive. We just want to progress.
So there you have it, folks. That was Maria's story. As sad as it is, at least she is one who was rescued. There are thousands of stories like Maria's. As much as they come to hand, in conjunction with the Counter Trafficking Unit, we will bring them to you. The objective here is for our friends in Venezuela to learn from this experience. Thank you very much for joining us. See you again next time.
The Ministry of National Security's Counter Trafficking Unit, led by Director Alana Wheeler, continues its work to investigate human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. 4 persons appeared virtually before the Port of Spain Magistrates Court on Friday, April 16, 2021, on 8 criminal charges collectively for human trafficking and offences under the Children's Act. Following an exercise early on the morning of Tuesday, April 13, 2021, with officers of the TTPS Special Investigations Unit, Special Task Force, Guard and Emergency Branch, Emergency Task Force, and Crime Scene Investigations Unit, the CTU led a team of officers into Diego Martin Blue Basin area. 4 persons were subsequently charged for sex trafficking of a Venezuelan minor. Mr. Karen Pascal, Mr. Shaquille Noel, Mr. Jose Rafael Sozano Perez, and Mr. Kuda James. Both Mr. Pascal and Mr. Noel were charged with receiving, transporting, and harboring a child for the purpose of child trafficking. Mr. Pascal was additionally charged with knowingly receiving a financial benefit from the offense of trafficking in persons, causing a child to prostitute. controlling a child prostitute, and facilitating child prostitution. Mr. Perez was charged with receiving and transporting a child for the purpose of child trafficking, while Mr. James was charged with sexual penetration of a child. Venezuelan Geraldine Abro, 19, and Clement Aliyoung, 30, have been charged with trafficking in persons and false imprisonment. Aliyoung was also charged with kidnapping. The charges were laid after a report was made that 2 Venezuelan women were kidnapped on April 23, 2021. Officers of the Special Investigations Unit, the SIU, with the assistance of the Multi-Option Police Section, the Counter Trafficking Unit, the CTU, and the TTPS Crime Scene Unit, proceeded to the Southern Main Road in Cunupia, where 2 Venezuelan women were found and rescued. 2 Venezuelans have been charged following an intensive investigation by the Special Investigations Unit Special Task Force with the assistance of the Counter Trafficking Unit and Interpol. Pedro David Hernandez Petete, 29, was charged with transporting a person within Trinidad for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution and for procuration of prostitution. Nohemi Del Rosario Velasquez, 22, was charged with procuration for prostitution. On June 2, 2021, based on intelligence and following painstaking inquiries and surveillance, officers with the assistance of the Northeastern Division Task Force intercepted 2 vehicles at Bamboo Settlement No. 2, Valsain, transporting 9 Latin American nationals, inclusive of a minor. 2 Trinidad and Tobago nationals were also arrested. Inquiries and interviews were conducted, which led to the execution of a search warrant at Central Park, Balmain, Couva, where 3 persons were charged and detained. Also assisting in the execution of the search warrant were members of MOPS and the Crime Scene Unit. The Counter Trafficking Unit continues to work closely with law enforcement partners to investigate trafficking in persons in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know or suspect human trafficking activity, call the toll-free 24-hour hotline 800-4288, 800-4CTU. I am Nicole Romani for Eye on Dependency News.
Thank you for calling the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. How may I help you?
The Trinidad and Tobago's Counter Trafficking Unit, also called the CTU, was established through an Act of Parliament, the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210, or the TIPS Act. We are a specialized, multidimensional, civilian-led agency under the Ministry of National Security, responsible for the daily operations of the counter-trafficking response of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago. We implement government policies developed by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, effective identification of victims and witnesses, prevention of trafficking, protection and prosecution, all through effective partnerships. We also operate a toll-free anonymous hotline, 800-4288-4CTU, where the public can report possible cases of human trafficking. We screen and interview persons to identify possible victims of trafficking. We refer identified victims to appropriate agencies for support and care. Specially trained, positively vetted police officers working in the CTU gather evidence, investigate, and prosecute human trafficking cases. In keeping with our public education mandate, we also deliver training to our many stakeholders and partners. We collaborate with local, regional, and international organizations, NGOs, churches, and faith-based organizations to educate and warn the public on how to recognize human trafficking. We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, continues to develop and implement effective policies and procedures to prevent and suppress human trafficking. To date, the National Task Force has developed 2 national plans of action against the crime of trafficking in persons. Trinidad and Tobago adopts a 4-pronged approach in its response to human trafficking. 1, effective identification of victims and witnesses. 2, prevention of human trafficking. 3, protection of victims and witnesses. And 4, prosecution of suspected traffickers. In the Ministry of National Security, we established a specialized unit called the Counter Trafficking Unit to lead and manage Trinidad and Tobago's response to human trafficking. The Counter Trafficking Unit works closely with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Immigration Division, and international law enforcement agencies to aggressively and proactively investigate and prosecute suspected human traffickers. Human trafficking is a serious crime. Rest assured, the government of Trinidad and Tobago and its agencies remain committed in the fight against human trafficking and will respond with immediate effect when the need arises.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Coming soon to TV6, the Eye on Dependency TV series, Eye on Health, featuring the survivors of major non-communicable diseases like cancer, addiction, diabetes, mental ill health, and more. Plus, medical professionals from the Ministry of Health provide the facts about these all too common diseases in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't miss Eye on Health, starting August 1st and airing every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on TV6.
Slavery, a terrible time in our history. The kidnapping, buying and selling of people for profit, the exploitation of another human being. It still exists today. It has a new name: human trafficking. Anyone can be a victim. There is forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Human trafficking is a worldwide problem and an emerging concern for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know of or suspect human trafficking activity, call the Counter Trafficking Hotline at 800-4CTU or 800-4288. Human trafficking is a crime. Identify it, report it, stop it. A message from the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security.
Hello, my name is Raquel, a trainee inmate at HMP Drake Hall, Staffordshire, England, and you're listening to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Please, people, don't traffic drugs. The money is all that nice. It's not worth it.
All right, folks, thank you very much for staying with us. Those of you who are still with us, thank you so much for your thirst for education. And of course, we say a special hello to our friends at the Conservation Corps. Major Benjamin, good evening to you and all of us who are locked on. And Natasha, that was, I hope, very important documentary for people to understand. And as the United Nations says, and there's a theme, victims' voices lead the way. And we just heard from a victim.
Indeed, I am so happy that that what we have just seen and the documentary that will hopefully elucidate the problem and the crime of human trafficking is in sync with the theme for the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. Victims' voices lead the way, and Maria as a victim or a survivor, as many others would refer to her, is her voice and her story is important for us to hear and to learn from.
But we have the director of the Counter Trafficking Unit here now online to speak with us, who will elaborate further, and then we have some youngsters to call who would give their take on what they just saw. Good evening, Ms. Wheeler.
Hi, good evening, Garth and Natasha, and good evening to the young persons of the Civilian Conservation Corps, Major Benjamin, and your full team, and good evening to all the listeners.
Ms. Wheeler, so we just heard from Maria, and of course, this all starts the week of activities. Could you take us through the steps, please, and you know, in the way that you know best?
Yeah, well, certainly. And the story we heard over the past hour of the program is a typical story of a migrant teenager who would have been trafficked into Trinidad. And from her story, you know, there's so many things that we could learn, that young people could learn also, and even those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, we could learn from Maria's story and from her experience. And we see a few things highlighted in her testimony. And one of the things is the transnational nature of human trafficking, that it involves persons and perpetrators in the source country and also in the destination country. And you would have heard her talk about transiting through particular regions and stuff in her own country to arrive into the destination country. So some of the things that stood out in her testimony and her experience is Maria's vulnerabilities. And we always tend to have the perception that victims of trafficking are usually poor persons or persons who are in a situation of poverty. And one of the things we realized with Maria is that she didn't lack for education or access to education. She was not poor, and she didn't come from a poor family. She didn't have any seemingly family problems or family situation. She had a boyfriend. Was it that she was looking for attention? Was it that she was just a very naive young person who just saw something and saw an opportunity and just wanted to experience something different? And she did say so. She said she had a desire for new horizons and she had particular dreams. She just wanted to experience something different. And nothing is wrong with that as a young person, but it's just that she connected herself with the wrong persons or persons who took her down a pathway that would have led possibly to her death and her destruction. And the other thing that stood out with, if we're looking at the context of human trafficking, is how Maria was recruited. And Maria was recruited by someone she knew.
Correct.
She was not kidnapped or anything. She had a best friend that she went to a party with, she was liming with, and she met a friend of the best friend. And it was through that friend of the best friend who friended her on Facebook. And she felt because she trusted her friend, she trusted the friend of the friend. And, you know, this is how things, of course, you know, typically happens. Well, because you're my friend's friend, then you're safe and I can trust you. And so she thought she could have trusted that person. And so when that person invited her to come to Trinidad and Tobago and offered to help her come to Trinidad and Tobago, because remember, Maria had a desire for new horizons and Maria had dreams.
New
She
horizons.
had a plan for her life and she saw just something exciting, and how it was told to her was in a way that this is going to be an exciting and a new experience. And in her naivety, of course, she went along with these things. So the other things that we look for with victims is that they tend not to pack many clothes and they tend to move with small bag and a small few belongings, right? And they always have somebody else who is paying for their movement.
Right.
Maria, you could say that she was a missing teen because she mentioned that her parents didn't know where she was. And it is possible they reported her missing, and she was not able to contact her family for a few days. So they would have reported her missing. She also mentioned being fearful and embarrassed to tell her family. And that's a typical thing with victims, particularly female victims, both adults and teenagers also, because it's an embarrassing situation to know that you're an intelligent person and you end up being duped or fooled into doing something. You know, and people may laugh at that and say, well, oh, she was so stupid and everything and stuff. But we don't know, because Maria innocently went into it because she trusted the friend of her friend. And she trusted that what was being said to her was the truth.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that she spoke about was that she was fearful. So even when Maria realized that this is not what I think this was going to be, and she wanted to pull away, even while she was in Venezuela, she wanted to pull away and go back home. But they already, as they say, had the hook in her jaw. And she was being threatened, and she was fearful for her life that if she did pull away, that something would happen to her. Now, in some cases in trafficking, they may know the person's victim and family, sorry. But in her case, the traffickers did not know her family members. They just knew her. So thankfully, they weren't able to threaten her family as such, but they threatened her. And we see where there was a lot of deception and lies in this particular story, in Maria's story. And she reached a point where she had no choice but to go along with the plan. Because what was Maria supposed to do? Was she just supposed to try and run away from the house, run away while she was at the supermarket? Where would she go? Because remember, this is a naive young girl who has never really been out very far away from her home and from her family environment. So who would she run to when she has a situation where the person who she thought she could have trusted, she couldn't trust them anymore, and she couldn't trust anybody anymore. So she really had no choice but to go along. Because, people might say, well, why didn't she just not go on the boat? Why did she come all the way and stuff? But she just didn't have a choice. There was no escape for Maria at that point, right? So there's a case where she actually did not want to be there. And she said so. She didn't want to be there, but she was actually being forced to continue. So, we have a situation where, consent is irrelevant in trafficking, right? But this is a minor. So, of course, we know, first of all, a minor being in a bar is a no-no. There are other laws against that, a minor being found in a bar, right? So even if she was an adult and she had consented to coming along on the trip, let's say, she would not have been aware of the circumstances of what she would be living in when she arrives in the destination country. So yes, she consented. She consented to coming to the destination country. She agreed to come into the destination country, but she did not agree with those conditions, right? Maria spoke about stress. She spoke about fainting when she saw, that, my God, this thing is going down bad and it's going down a wrong road. And, you heard the dilemma in Maria's voice and in her experience where she tried to reach out. She reached out to her mother. She tried to reach out to her friend because she thought these were people who could help her and who she could trust. Her mom was in another country and her mom wasn't able to help her. But one thing Maria said is that, here is Maria quietly praying and crying out to God. So she was crying out for help on the inside and she was crying out to God in prayer. Yes. And she mentioned something about, it was like a miracle from God. Because while Maria was there praying and asking God for help, there were other persons praying for her, and so she was able to get that breakthrough because at the same time, there would have been persons, she mentioned police were looking at the place and stuff. So, while all of that was going on, there were things already in train and things in place to rescue her and to rescue others. So, I think that's really it in a nutshell in terms of what are some of the trafficking indicators that we would look for in a typical case. And this is a case involving a child, but this is also a typical case that adults experience in trafficking.
As well, yes. And,
Ms. Wheeler, can you explain the element of smuggling and how that factors into Maria's story? Because I know that some people confuse the act of smuggling and the act of human trafficking. So could you explain how that comes in?
Sure. So smuggling is where a person they make an arrangement between themselves and other parties to move them across a border from one country to another country. So it must involve the crossing of international borders. It involves the person entering that country illegally. So Maria would have entered Trinidad and Tobago illegally. Now, we don't have any smuggling laws as such, but we do have laws under the Immigration Act where you can be penalized for illegal entry. So what would happen is that Maria would have been penalized for entering Trinidad illegally. And the persons who would have been facilitating that illegal entry, they also needed to be penalized. But the purpose for Maria being smuggled or having entered Trinidad illegally was for the purpose of exploiting her sexually and for trafficking her. Mm-hmm. And this is where the laws provide for persons who would have committed criminal offenses as a result of being trafficked. They can offer that as a defense in their case. So Maria would not have been charged for the breach of the immigration laws, right? Mm-hmm. Simply because of the purpose and the intention, in addition to which, of course, she was a minor, right, at the time. So so that's where we do have the mix-up. Now, there are persons who make an arrangement, because remember, Maria arranged, I don't know if she knew that, because being a child and being naive and everything, she may not have known that it was actually a crime she was committing by, sneaking around the boat and dodging the Coast Guard and all of that. She may or may not have known, we don't know, but the persons who arranged it would have known.
Yes.
Right? They certainly would have known that what they were doing was illegal. So yes, Maria consented to coming to Trinidad. Yes, she didn't have a passport. I don't know if she ever had a passport or knows, what a passport could be used for and stuff. And, we assume a lot of naivety sometimes in these things, that young persons really are not aware of certain things, And so she would have come without a passport. The only identity document she said she had was probably her ID or her schedule or something, which they did tell her to show to the Guardia Nacional on the Venezuela side.
Yeah.
So she probably assumed that was all she needed to come to Trinidad.
Yep.
And there are a lot of Venezuelans who think that they think that all they need to do to come across is just their schedule. So they go across to Colombia, they go to Brazil, they go to neighboring countries and stuff, and they just produce their schedule and they go across. So some of them innocently do believe that that's all the documentation that they need. So she consented to being smuggled, yes, but she did not consent to being trafficked.
Right.
There's nobody on the face of this earth, I think, who would consent to being exploited or consent to the circumstances under which she ended up being in.
And as well, Alice's pointing out, it's surprising how many people are involved in human trafficking: taxi drivers, boat owners, bars, other businesses, even landlords as well.
Yes. And of course, you see the penalties from the educational videos for all those things. So harboring or housing a person who has been trafficked, so the persons who renting apartments and renting houses and stuff, and trafficked persons are being kept there. Those persons can be penalized. Properties can be seized, vehicles could be seized, houses could be seized, all these different things, right? It's transnational organized crime at the end of the day.
A young person just saying here, at first I did not want to be here, but after hearing this, I changed my mind. I knew human trafficking was a thing, but I did not know how serious it was. I'm also glad to know that Miss Maria and the others were rescued, and hopefully their homes with their families recovering from such a traumatic experience. Now, Ms. Wheeler, that to me, your job has been done here today. If at least the saying, if you win one person over, you make 1,000 angels sing, right? This person did not know that human trafficking was so serious.
But also, he's speaking to the traumatic experience, and could you tell us a little bit about how the CTU assists victims in dealing with what they have been through after they're rescued?
Yeah, well, that's where the work actually begins.
Yeah.
The rescue is the easy part, because once they're rescued, now you have all the agencies coming into play. You have the police officers, and we have some very good, hardworking police officers in the TTPS who work diligently to investigate these cases. And the investigations are very complex. Involve, many different parts, because in Maria's case, there was Facebook. So you're talking about a cybercrime element. In her case, there were the immigration offenses. So you're involving that. You're involving her staying at a particular location. There are so many elements involved in the investigation. And so in addition to which, while the police are doing their investigations, there is a lot of psychosocial support that has to go into helping Maria get a grip of what happened to her. Because here it is that trust has been broken. She trusted her best friend. She trusted her best friend's friend. And she trusted these people who helped her along the way, and trust was broken. Here it is, you have Maria, who is feeling very embarrassed and humiliated and doesn't even know what she's going to say to her family. She has a boyfriend back home, right? What boyfriend would want to know that his girlfriend was working as a prostitute?
Right.
And thankfully, in her case, she said she didn't have the time to do that because the police came in and stuff. So when we take a victim under our care, we have many, many different agencies involved. If it's a child, we involve the Child Protective Services, which is the Children's Authority. We involve the homes and shelters where children are placed by the Children's Authority. Maria mentioned medicals, and she mentioned 2 medicals that she had just in one night. So we're talking about the healthcare system that gets involved. She mentioned food that they were fed. So somebody has to put the resources into feeding the victims. She mentioned being seen by the Venezuelan embassy. So they are the consular services that are meted out to the victims. And she mentioned being separated. The minors were separated from the adults. And you see where there's a different treatment given to minors as opposed to adults simply by virtue of them being a minor. There are certain extra things that need to be put in place. Somebody who's seeking the interest of the minor while they're being interviewed and all of that. Maria mentioned, she mentioned praying and stuff, and there was a church that particularly supported and helped Maria along the way. Maria was actually embraced by Trinidad and Tobago nationals, and a family was able to take her in, and they cared for Maria and helped her in her rehabilitation and in her reintegration. Maria was embraced by a church community. They loved her, they accepted her, they protected her, they restored her, and they met all her needs until she was safely reunited with her family. You know, so when we talk about trauma, and the psychologist will tell you trauma impacts a person's mental state, their emotional state, their physical state, and their spiritual state. So if we're talking about restoring and rehabilitating a victim, we have to touch all those areas, right? If we just focus on one, food, shelter, clothing, that's just one part of their restoration. There are all the other elements that need to be meted out to ensure that that person is wholly and fully restored, right? Now, not all victims may be interested in obtaining the spiritual support and the support of a church community, but in Maria's case, she did choose that way, and that way worked well for her, and it really worked out for her in the end because she was able to, get the kind of support that she really needed. So, it just goes to say it's a whole community approach. We involve churches, we involve faith-based organizations, we involve NGOs, we involve international organizations in rendering the support and assistance to the victims. Because of course, as a unit, we are a very, very, very small unit, right, with very few staff. And so we rely heavily on other agencies and other partners to render the support that is required.
So you all are doing a fantastic job, trust me. And well, we have a youngster who would like to say something to you. Let's take that first call, Kerr. And hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
And you are?
I am Patrice Smith.
Patrice from Tobago.
Yes, that's correct.
How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us, Patrice. So, well, you have a minute and change to tell us, or tell Miss Wheeler what you learned from what you just saw, and what advice would you give to other young women?
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
So, well, what I got from the film is that human trafficking is very serious, and Maria's story is actually one of the good ones. That actually, the person that was trafficked was actually saved and rescued, and her situation is different from others, and being that she was saved, and watching and hearing her interview could help us a lot. And I think that it is important, and a lot of information was shared based on the topic, and I think I learned a lot from the interview and having the opportunity here to view the film and the interview as well.
Patrice, thank you so much. And what would you like to say to youngsters now, especially young ladies who, you heard Maria, she went about New Horizons. I couldn't get over that part. What would you like to say to young women listening especially?
Well, what I have to say is that, we need to always be careful of our surroundings. We always need to be aware of what is happening around us. And not because we meet somebody online or we meet somebody on social media who is interacting with us as a friend or from a friend's perspective that, we need to always get involved with whatever they're doing. We always need to be careful and vigilant and, just be mindful of what is happening. And even in Maria's case, where she didn't tell anybody around her, I think her best bet would have been to, tell an adult or even tell somebody that, that you trust, that will be willing to help you out in your situation, because, we are young and we don't know everything, and we always need somebody help and guidance. And I think that will always help us as we go along.
Ms. Wheeler, what do you think?
Yes, I was hardly hearing her. I hardly hear the persons when they call in.
Okay.
On this, yeah, so I did get the gist of it really, and the advice that she gave. And yes, it's good for young persons to listen and take heed to you know, as one of the videos said, you know, the friends will take you and they will lead you, and then the friend, up to this day, we don't know where her friend is.
That's right.
The friend who encouraged her to come here. So,
Patrice, thank you very much. Huh?
You're welcome.
Take care.
Thanks again for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That was Patrice from Tobago. She's Civilian Conservation Corps trainee. Very intelligent. Sounds really, really. She could see she really absorbed what she saw. You know, let's go. We have. Hello. Good evening.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good evening, ma'am. And who we are speaking with?
This is Shalana.
Shalana, also from Tobago.
Yes, representing CCC.
Right. Go ahead, idea. What did you think?
Okay. Well, first of all, when I was listening, I wrote down my points, right?
You have a radio on in the background?
Hello?
You have take off the radio in the background. Something is on in the background.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead.
You hearing me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Right. First of all, I will say good night to the public. This is Shalana Robley representing CCC. Okay. So I wrote down my points while listening carefully to the video. Right? And the first point I got was when going somewhere, let someone know. Because Maria made a step without consenting her family and telling them where she was going. Right? Maria did not say whether I'm going east, west, north, and south, and Maria was wrong for doing that. That was a downfall. My second point was being aware of media communications and the nature of your people. Because when communicating with someone on Facebook or whether Instagram or WhatsApp or however the case is, you have to know that person personally, not only on the media, but you have to know that person. And we have to be aware when we accept requests from people. We have to know if we know this person. We cannot accept strangers and then strangers asking us our private
Well said.
Yes. To them.
Well said.
Yes.
You know? And my next point is to have a strong mind, a strong mindset, because Maria did not have a mind on her own. Maria's friend made her decision for her because she was not strong-minded. My fourth point was making healthy decisions. Maria did not strategize for decisions. Maria did not put points and put things in place. Maria just acted. She did not think. My fifth point was when going somewhere, right, have information about the place that you are going to. Have information about that place. What is the nature of that place? Where am I going? Is that place a private community? Is that place a place with a lot of people? Where am I going? Is it a town area or is it a country area? Right? My sixth point is being aware of your surroundings. Even me being Maria was supposed to be aware of her surroundings, because in this time and season we cannot trust anyone. I myself cannot trust myself, but God in this season. You know, so we have to be very, very careful of our surroundings, right? Be careful of the car that we are going into, taking notes of the what you call that thing again?
The number plate.
The number plate and stuff like that. Yes. You have to watch the driver face. You have to look at the people and them in the car with you.
Yes.
One thing I do when I'm traveling, and I use my phone. I take front before front take me. Even though I'm not talking on the phone, I'm having conversation on the phone and telling them what kind, so the driver gonna know not to play with me.
Yes.
Right. My next point is ask questions before entering vehicles. Ask questions. Question your driver, because even being a passenger, you are a customer. It is customer service, right? So in being a passenger, you have all right to ask the driver, you know, whatsoever you want to ask him.
Yes.
Right? My next point is before going into a country, research the laws and the penalty and the events, whether good or bad, so you will be prepared. Right?
Ms.
At
Robley?
least you know that you are going into a country where trafficking is rampant. Hallelujah. Yeah, where trafficking is rampant, right? Human trafficking is rampant, sorry. You will be prepared. You will know to be aware of your surroundings. You will know to be alert. You will know to let your eyes operate like an eagle eye. Let your ears operate like an eagle ears. You understand? We have to see and understand, hear and understand as well what is taking place. We have to research our laws that we will know well. Shalana, you cannot go here and you can't smoke in the public. Shalana, you can't do this, you can't do that because this is the penalty for that and that, etc.
Shalana.
And my next point
Shalana.
Yeah.
Could you save the rest for next week? Could you save the rest for next week, Sunday, please, God? Shalana, you're real good. Trust me.
I know you wrote them all down so you wouldn't forget.
So save the rest for next week, Sunday, please, God, right?
Okay.
Shalana, you're the boss. Thank you very much. Well represented, Tobago. Well done. Miss Wheeler?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Shalana, take care. Miss Wheeler, you heard Shalana? Miss Wheeler still there? Where's she gone? Miss Wheeler? All right, who we have again?
I'm still here, Garth.
Okay. And Mr. Hines, Mr. Hines made a good point. What stood out for him was the traffickers, the knowledge of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard was out and about for 5 days that they couldn't. And so when people think our Coast Guard not doing anything, they actually patrolling the waters. And also,
and again, we see how transnational in nature and how organized the crime is. That they involve many stakeholders.
Yes.
So there are a couple of things I also want to share. I'm looking at time, and in the interest of time,
yes,
right. So I don't know if there were other persons. Just
we have one more, Antonio.
We have one on the line now. So let's
Antonio
hear him,
from Central. Antonio.
Yes, hi, good night.
Yes, good evening, Antonio. And to those others who waiting for us to call, if you don't get through next week, please God, you'll be first in line. All right. So let's hear from Antonio.
Okay, no problem.
Antonio, go ahead. Turn off that radio in the background, Antonio.
All right, I think she's still speaking. I'm not sure.
No. You're on. You listen on your computer.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Hi, good night.
Yes.
Is Antonio Adams from Central Region.
Good evening, Antonio. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so my take on this was she is a bit naive, right? But it's not her fault. And we need to be more aware of our surroundings, but make wise decisions. Right? We are under the age of 18. Whether being under the age of 18 or above, it is wise that you tell someone or you inform someone before making a decision upon yourself to leave your home and go to another country. Right?
Correct.
Ask your parents or someone in authority and someone who you trust about this before moving forward. Now, not only as young ladies, but even young men too, because this happens to anyone, right? This is a thing that has no respect for anyone.
Yes.
So, when meeting people online, social media, whatever it may be, do not pick up yourself and just wholeheartedly trust them to the point where you will be leaving to go to another country to meet them. Because people can portray whatever they want you to believe.
Correct.
And if at any point there is something that you are unsure or uncomfortable with, inform your parents or whoever is in authority or above you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I will say is this was very eye-opening to me of how many people in a country is involved in something that they know is illegal, right?
Yes.
And they don't think for themselves that they could have family members who the same thing would be happening to. And with this story shared, it wasn't only informative to me, but I feel as though the higher ups and the authorities should take from this and do a more in-depth patrol in and around the borders, for these people and hold them accountable.
Antonio, thank you so much, and we're looking forward to your contribution again next Sunday. All right?
You're welcome.
Please
Thank
God,
you.
take care. Well represented Central Region. Thank you so much, son. Take care. We speak again. Ms. Wheeler, so, and also the minister also spoke about the Trinbagonians who were here to greet and guide them on arrival. Ms. Wheeler, you have a week of activities coming up, and I'm sure you want to share some of that with us too.
Yes, sure. So, Garth and Natasha, thanks to the Ion Dependency team for sponsoring the production of Maria, and we certainly hope to air it. We're looking forward to the Spanish version of Maria that we could share with our Spanish-speaking migrant community. Also wanted to say a special thanks to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Audiovisual Unit, led by Sergeant Stevens,
Great job.
who produced the videos, the short videos that you saw in between the presentation. And also thanks to the Ministry of National Security Corporate Communications Unit for facilitating that and really supporting us in what we're trying to do. We do have a full week of activities, but I just wanted to say that this week came about as a result of consultations that we held with our stakeholders in the latter part of last year, where, you know, as the theme for the UN World Day Against Trafficking in Persons is Victims' Voices. Right, I think you mentioned the theme as victims' voices lead the way. And so we did consult with the victims, and we consulted with over 80 other stakeholder agencies. And having a week, an awareness week, was one of the things that the stakeholders wanted to see happening. So we chose to do it on the week leading up to the UN World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. And all these activities were coordinated and arranged by a group of us, a team of us, involving Mrs. Rabia Khan from the Interclub of Trinidad and Tobago, involving representatives from the Ministry of Education, Ms. Julia Ramirez Modest, and also a representative from Ministry of Foreign and Maritime Affairs, Charlene Lashley Caruth. That team is the team responsible for this awareness week that we are having. And our theme is from awareness to action. Because we know persons are aware of human trafficking.
Yes.
Awareness raising is not sufficient. Okay, so we know and we're aware. What do we do now? You know, we now have to act or do something about it. And one of these videos you would have seen said, you know, if we do little or nothing to respond to human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago, we can end up having so many negative ramifications and consequences. So what we want is for persons to act and to take action. So today was one of the first sessions that we had. During the course of this week, every day on our Facebook page, the Counter Trafficking Unit TT Facebook page, also on Ion Dependency, also on other Facebook pages, we will be releasing each of the videos each day, also on our YouTube channel.
Right.
So we can encourage persons to visit our Facebook page and our YouTube channel to view those educational videos. Tomorrow, we actually do have a session on online grooming and sexual exploitation, and that is in partnership with the Franciscan Institute of Trinidad and Tobago. They have been doing some excellent work. The person who will be delivering that session is a person very high demand, Dr. Karen Moore. She has had several sessions like this over the past year, and so we are happy to have her, and we are happy that the Franciscan Institute has agreed to partner with us on this session. So that session, you have to register. It's via Zoom, and it's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon tomorrow. So you can check out our Facebook page for the Zoom link to register for the session. And again, it's on online grooming and sexual exploitation. On Wednesday, we have the University of the West Indies Institute for Gender and Development Studies has partnered with Interclub of Trinidad and Tobago and other agencies to deliver a session, which is by invitation only. Sorry, it's by invitation only because the numbers are limited to, I think, just about 40 persons. And that would be a very interesting discussion by someone called Kamala Kempodo. I think she's an American professor, university professor. They sent out readings for us to read before the session. So it's going to be quite an intellectual discussion. And the theme is Rethinking Trafficking, Getting to Know the Source of the Problem. That is from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Wednesday. On Thursday, we partnered with one of the Venezuelan migrant groups, La Casita, and we are going to be hosting a bilingual session targeting the Spanish-speaking community. So there will be a channel for Spanish speakers and a channel for English speakers.
Right.
So when you tune in on Zoom, you will choose the channel that you would listen to for the session. And that is going to be on Thursday evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And the Counter Trafficking Unit will be delivering that session. Our Deputy Director, Ms. Thomas, and also our legal person, Ms. Amon, will be delivering that session to the Spanish-speaking community, so persons can tune in. And on Friday, we will be announcing via social media, Facebook page, the 3 winners of the spoken word competition. And then on Friday is the UN World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. That's the day that's recognized globally as a day, to treat with human trafficking. Then next week, Sunday, on the 1st of August, we will have the virtual presentation of the spoken word prizes. And we will allow the winners, the 3 winning pieces, to air their prizes. So we want to say thanks. Well, we'll speak more about who the judges were for that competition next week, Sunday, because, of course, we wouldn't want to say who they are right now.
Right.
But we want to say thanks to the judges for the spoken word competition. And again, thanks to Mrs. Khan and her team, the prevention team, for developing this week of activities. I also can't leave without making a special mention of our Minister of National Security, who is the chair of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, and our Permanent Secretary, Mr. Gary Joseph, and the National Security Executive, as the persons who would have sanctioned us having this week of activities and who would have fully supported the work of the Counter Trafficking Unit. So I think on that note, Garth and Natasha, I would say thank you very much. And certainly we do look forward to persons being a part of this week's activity. If you've missed anything, check out our Facebook page, Counter Trafficking Unit TT, to stay tuned to all the activities.
Yes, and I'd like to see all you youngsters visit Counter Trafficking Unit page on Facebook as well, so that you can get involved on the YouTube channel as well too.
Yes.
Ms. Wheeler,
and we posted the link to the page in the
Yes.
comments on Facebook, so you could go to the page one time and like it and follow.
So, and remember, to the folks who didn't call this evening, we will be speaking with you tomorrow, next Sunday, because remember, we have the 3 winners of the spoken word competition will be representing CCC again next Sunday, please God. So look out for that. Ms. Wheeler, that'll be very exciting. Of course, we're looking forward to that too as well.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. And as you said, to the AV unit, the police AV unit, good work, well done.
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Wheeler?
Excellent work by the TTPS AV unit.
Yes. Of course, Carissa and Dennis and why did Rep 868 and all the other folks who put these together. Nico Romani from I-95 Newsroom, and everybody else who made this possible this evening. We thank you, Ms. Wheeler. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Have a safe evening.
Okay, thank you and goodbye.
And goodbye. Take care. And folks, so that is it for us this evening. Remember, Kerr has to head south, so we have to leave as well. But to all of those who, Major Benjamin, Ms. Kisto, and all of those who joined us this evening, we thank you so much for tuning in. Natasha, any closing remarks?
Yes, well, just to thank everybody for their assistance in making this possible, the documentary, the story of Maria. I'm not sure what the arrangement is, but we can make it available to you. Of course, you can look at this live immediately after it ends, or just go to the Iron Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel to see it.
Or the Counter Trafficking.
Or the Counter Trafficking Unit page as well. And we may make it available on our YouTube channel so that you could go there at any time and look at it at your leisure.
Because you see that contribution Shalana Robley from Tobago made. Outdone, she outdo most of you all, right? Antonio was close behind also. But we really impressed with you all. And next week, please, we'll be speaking more on this bill on conservation. I hope the Minister of Youth Development and National Service would be listening so that he can hear the brilliance of these youngsters and the great work that these instructors are doing at the conservation.
Maybe offer them a larger stipend.
Well, that's another story, but we get into that. So, Riaz Ali, I'm glad you decided to come. And I hope you join us next Sunday. Please God, all of you, all our folks on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and who listen to us on the radio. You heard the message from Maria. You heard Miss Alana Wheeler. God bless you all.
Thank
Be
you
safe.
very much. Be safe and good night.
Good night. Short man, thanks again, brother. Okay, take care.
Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography. On the Eye, 95.5, the most influential name in radio.
This is I-95.5.